Good evening and welcome to this info session for the Masters of Arts in Popular Music Pedagogy program. I am your humble host, Rayanna Campbell, a student success advocate here with Frost Online, and I am joined by my fabulous co-host, Andrea Jimenez, who is the director for Frost Online programs. Andrea, if you could just say a quick hello.
Thank you, Rihanna. Hello, hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us, spending a bit of your evening with us or afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for being with us. We're really happy to be here.
Amazing. So I do see most of us trickling in. Now that we are here, just wanted to go over a few housekeeping items. So this informational session, it's going to be about 45 minutes long, and there will be a recording that is available to you at the end. So if you need to grab water or a snack or use the restroom throughout, that is perfectly fine. We'll ensure that this information gets to you. If you have questions that come up during the informational session, do use the Q&A feature. So you'll want to take note of that. It's going to be at the bottom of your screen with a box and a question mark in it. And then lastly, you'll want to take note of this phone number, 305-284-0050, to speak with an enrollment advisor about your specific circumstances and needs, as this informational session will be an overview that is applicable to each of you. So, with that, just to give you an overview of the actual program, it is 10 courses long. That equates to about 5 semesters if you do not take any breaks, which is approximately 20 months. You are at the standard pace taking 7-week courses, and so with that, you're taking a 7-week course, about a break of a week or so in between, another 7-week course, and then about a 2-week break in between semesters. It is a program that is designed for fall, spring, and summer, but if you have specific needs to adjust your curriculum, you would work with me to let me know. Outside of that, it does not require an entrance exam such as a GRE or a GMAT, which really does remove some of the potential roadblocks that you might ensue. And then for this particular program, you do get a final project that you're able to add to your portfolio that really speaks to the work that you want to put out into the world. And so we want that to be a valuable experience and for you to be able to get feedback on your work. But with that, I wanted to give us an opportunity to learn about some of our panelists. So, Ray, if we could start with you introducing yourself.
Hey everybody, I'm Ray Sanchez. I am an associate dean here at the Frost School, but I also teach in the MAID department and in online. I teach two courses that would be considered electives in this program: entrepreneurship for musicians and music copyright law. But I was also instrumental in developing the entire contemporary curriculum at the Frost School. In fact, I'm pretty much the one that started it all back almost 19 years ago, I think now, something like that. And so this degree program we're really excited about because it's the logical evolution of a journey we've been on for almost 20 years. As some of you should know, popular music education is starting to grow around the country, particularly at the K through 12 level, but even collegiately. Um, but there's not much in music academia about popular music education, and the pedagogy is basically, well, up until now has been basically non-existent. There's been a lot of schools over the years that have taught about popular music and musicology and things like that, but actually involved in the making and training of popular musicians and making popular music and teaching people how to teach in that context has been virtually non-existent, and it's been a handful of schools that for around 20 years have been on this journey, and we've developed that pedagogy, and so we're really proud to offer this degree program because we feel that there's a huge need out there as more and more schools go down this road, and and again, the growth that we're seeing nationally at the K through 12 level, it's I think there's going to be just a very great need for teachers that can manage this type of music in a formal classroom setting. So I'm proud to have been part of the building of all of this. Actually have on the screen here Dan Strange, my colleague, who has been instrumental in developing a lot of this actual pedagogy. And so I think it'd be probably good to turn it over to him at this moment.
What a nice segue, Ray. It's a nice, smooth path. Terrific. Dan Strange, everyone, Chair and Program Director of the Modern Artist Development and Entrepreneurship Program at Frost, and just thrilled to have seen this get off the ground. And so my involvement in the Frost Online, the Popular Music Pedagogy degree, is I have a module in the Popular Music Methods course, a keyboard module. I am assistant professor of contemporary keyboard at Frost. Actually, I should also mention at Frost, I teach our sophomore level musicianship slash theory course, which includes a keyboard lab. I also teach or run rather our what we would consider maybe our flagship group in the contemporary program, the American Music Ensemble, and I oversee all things in the contemporary keyboard studio. So that's my involvement at the undergrad, and many of that pedagogy translated into the keyboards module of the Popular Music Methods course. And I also developed and ran the course that you take in the degree MD 709, which is Popular Music Theory Pedagogy, where I take you through the perspective of what I see in that sophomore level, particularly more on the advanced side. I would describe that course as everything maybe that you wouldn't have had if you went a traditional route. You may have been exposed in jazz settings, but how that functionality of pedagogy translates to the students we have now and the students that an educator most likely will have in K through 12. Actually, thinking about this online webinar here tonight, what my guests tomorrow are four alums from the Frost School, and one of them actually is currently an elementary school teacher in Miami who has completely developed a pop music commercial teaching program among her students, and I've seen it in action. And so there are so many of our students who are now realizing that this information it needs to be shared on more than just the surface level. And so the degree is such an amazing complement for educators all across the country and the world.
Thank you both so much. You're doing our jobs for us. So I appreciate you both being here. Again, definitely integral parts to what is our popular music pedagogy program here online. And yes, one of the only ones online, aside from one somewhere else in the US in person. So definitely what we're doing here at Frost is something that innovation is huge for us. And we are very grateful for everybody who's here with us tonight and whoever watches this as a recording. Appreciate you all as well. So you both touched a bit about the curriculum, the building of what is pop music pedagogy, this contemporary space that yes hasn't in what we've discussed hasn't had as much love as it deserves in the market in the industry, and teaching folks what that looks like from a teaching and learning and pedagogical standpoint. So again, appreciate you both. When we are talking about the program, right? How can we in terms of the skill sets, right? So we had, Ray, you mentioned both of your courses, and yes, they are electives, but they are important ones. We have students that they want to pursue, they're educators, but they also want to, and other than serving and being an employee in a school, they also maybe want to have something on the side. And you know, we have a gig economy, at least at Frost, for sure. People are out there working on different projects and putting their work out into the world in this entrepreneurial way and finding other streams of revenue. Can you speak to that a bit, Ray? And I would love to hear from you as well, Dan, because I mean, right after this, you're getting out of here to go to go gig. So let's speak to that about to our audience, because there is one way we can do this, and students can take this in their actual, you know, 9 to 5, but they can also take this and apply it elsewhere. Ray, can you speak to that?
Yeah, yeah. So there's a few things. So the um, one of the things we discovered um, in developing this curriculum, and again, this wasn't something that just happened overnight. This is actually a long evolution, um, and it's a nationwide movement. Uh, but and that is that traditionally music education has been focused primarily around classical music, and then starting in the 1970s, jazz started coming in. And so, yeah, pretty much every school now has some kind of jazz group or whatever. But those two art forms, and they're beautiful, they're amazing, they're actually not the mainstream of professional music. In fact, from a consumption perspective, jazz and classical together make up less than 3% of the entire market for music. So the mainstream market for music is everything else. So when we say popular music, I want to be clear, it doesn't just mean a certain kind of pop music. It's basically uh, mainstream music. What is happening now? I really like the way that the Association for Popular Music Education frames it. I was a founding member of that organization and served as its first vice president. Um, it talks about music, this music being and always existing in the, and I love this phrase, the ever present, the ever changing present. Okay, so whereas it's not difficult to develop a pedagogy of traditional repertoire in classical music or even jazz, which has kind of established its own canon, if you will. There is no canon in popular music. It's by its very nature living in the ever changing present. So the pedagogy has to adapt to that. So, for example, the course that my colleague created, Popular Music Theory Pedagogy, it's not teaching you the theory, it's teaching how to teach the theory. But then in order to do that, you of course have to understand the most fundamental aspects of why we even do theory in popular music. Of course, because in popular music, just like jazz, by the way, it's not theory, it's practice. We live this every day when someone is making their own music. And that's why I say this music lives in the ever-changing present, because in most programs, there's a heavy emphasis, even at the K through 12 level, at students making their own music. So guiding them and teaching them. We're not just teaching traditional part writing and species counterpoint and things like that, which is what the traditional approach was. And by the way, my undergraduate is in theory composition. So I went through all of that. Even as a guitar player, I got through it somehow. No, actually really enjoyed all of that, but it is a very different world, and it is not the world of the popular, or I actually really like the term everyday musician. There was there was a guy that wrote a book back in the 1960s, late 1960s, about popular music theory. It was probably the first thing ever written, called everyday tonality. And so I've thought about this a lot, and I think of what we do as everyday music, and that it's constantly changing. So I said all that to put it in the background. The courses that I teach uh, uh, spring from our music industry program, which is where I was originally, when I was originally hired at the Frost School back in the day. It was through that area, but that's because um, before I started teaching, I was actually in that everyday music business for almost 25 years, fully self-employed. So I developed a course in music entrepreneurship, basically the what am I going to do when I get out of here course. Um,
Right.
and that's become a very important course at in the curriculum of the Frost School. In fact, aspects of this course are taught to everyone
Mhm.
because everyone at the undergraduate level is required to take a music business course that includes some of my modules. Of course, this course that I teach in this curriculum is at the graduate level. It's a whole different thing. But it is that big picture perspective of all of the different possibilities and options for career paths
Mhm.
in the contemporary music industry.
That's right.
And then the other course that I teach is copyright, which is foundational because if I talk about students making their own music, well, in fact, they're creating their own copyrights at that moment. And copyright is the lifeblood of a creator. This is how we get paid. This is how the modern music business works. So,
Right.
um, so hope that answers,
Yeah.
those questions.
Thank you, Ray. I
Mhm.
appreciate that. Dan, please jump in and give us your perspective on that.
Yeah, first thing I want to do though is I absolutely echo what Ray said or hinted at with the yes, there is a core, but the elective choices and the elective credits are just as important, no matter what formula you take throughout the shopping cart, so to speak. So you kind of look, I'm looking at the list even right now and thinking,
Yeah.
well, I'd want to take all of it, you know, because all of it is so important to the everyday musician, to I throw the term practical musician, somebody who's going to make it work with an expanding, maybe it's not a 9 to 5. If, in fact, in most cases, unless it is the music business path, it's not. In as we said earlier, my examples is perfect tonight. Finished my day at Frost on this great webinar,
That's
and
right.
then a show tonight because that's what I love to do as an artist, and it makes my day and my experience very complete. I will jump into a little bit without giving it all away that it was so interesting to develop the popular music theory pedagogy because I had to make sure that an online student felt number one, that they were part of the experience.
That's right.
So when you take the course, there's essentially three perspectives. There's the perspective of you as the educator, there's the perspective of you as the student in the technology side, and there's the perspective of you at the keyboard, sort of having a gathering space, if you will, of like, hey, let me show you this, kind of the way a lot of us learn music early on. I mean, I have this great story, not to go off on a huge tangent, but the way I learned was my grandfather would call out, play the before F chord, play the sunny side chord, oh, play the Charlie Brown chord. He had all these names for everything, and that's how I learned to
Wow.
do it. And
Wow.
so I try to take some of that element in my early learning, my scholarly years, and developing it as a craft, as an educator, and trying to speak to the whole room, so that as a student in the course, as Ray mentioned, you are actually probably learning information that you didn't learn on the traditional path.
That's right.
And that's not a bad thing at all, because there are holes there. Not that it's not a great education, but there are holes for students who may not have had access to those opportunities, and they come to you as an educator, and so many times you don't know what to do with them. So I think also that's why this was created in many ways. I mean, we had amazing discussions in that class last semester
Right.
of, I would hear things from the students going, I used this very topic we talked about this week, and I saw students' eyes just light up because I was showing them something from a neo soul record that we talked about in class. you know.
Wow.
So it's just kind of connecting those dots, and again, giving access to students to music education, that you're empowered and you now have the tool set to be able to speak to, you know, anybody who comes into your classroom education mentoring situation.
And Dan, I'm going to stick with you because again, I know we're pretty pressed for time, but I want to
Sure.
ask you in that experience with our pop students in these courses, in the courses that you teach and all that,
Mm,
how have as it speaks to like how they managed and got through the your course. It's in an online format, but then we have our virtual office hours and you
mm.
were able to meet with them and really break down concepts. How in terms of like what did you find, what in your opinion is most effective for our students, to whoever come and are here, to be able to be successful, right, in terms of staying organized, engaged in their courses, engaged in the community, and essentially like just being successful and doing well in all courses, right? What are some strategies and skill sets you think that they absolutely should practice, given that they're balancing, we understand they're balancing both school, working, being an educator, or in it, or something else relative to that, and their personal life.
Well, I didn't fully grasp the impact of us doing this online until I was actually in the thick of running the course and having students all over the country, and
That's right.
you know, picking a time that would work for most of them, and it was very consistent. I find that all of us as instructors are making that effort, because that's really the important time that we value so much, is the one-on-ones when people can make it. But what was great about that was, again, it was not so much the discussion about the content, it was the discussion about the content leading to, oh, if I could go back to this experience, I would have used this then, or
Oh, wow.
this has given me an idea to redo my entire curriculum and tear down the wall that, you know, maybe we're not teaching things in possibly the order that's going to reach every student. And not that you can, but again, with the tool set to be able to say, well, not only does this come from this traditional background, but I'm sure you just heard it on the radio. I'm sure if you're watching this show that you're hearing this technique being used. Those discussions were fantastic. And I, as the educator in the overseer, got to learn so much about what is happening around the country, and such great things are happening around the country, and great educators have such great ideas, and the dialogue, you know, if we weren't meeting in an office hour, I made sure that we had uh, great lively discussions in the discussion board. And I mean, it was
Right.
it was awesome to be in touch. I never felt like anybody was not part of the experience. I think we have really cracked that code in this degree, in making it be like everybody's really connected. It doesn't feel like you're, you know, on a computer. The way our faculty deliver the information, the way we engage, the questions we ask, the knowledge checks that we have, it's such a wide variety. And again, my students in that course came away just saying, you know, this really made me rethink my game plan here, and I've now got new
Wow.
information that I never would have thought. It was fantastic.
Mm. I appreciate that, Dan. And again, your perspective is important in your chairmanship and just all that you do here for the program. So thank you again. Ray, any thoughts about just that community that we're building, but also like the skill sets that you've seen students, like just ensuring that they are practicing so that they're successful in an online format?
Yes, so that's really important because the difference between an online format and on campus is everything happens much faster, which is, of course, one of the benefits of online. Um, you get through a course in half the time, literally, than you do on campus. Um, but you have to be very organized, you have to be disciplined. Um, and yes, the vast majority of my students um, are working professionals out there, you know, so they're having to balance life and school. So I feel like once you get into the flow of things, and you know, I like to think that what we've developed here through Cross Online is um, a very methodical, efficient pathway through the curriculum, that once you get into the flow of things, um, that you're fine. And of course, hugely important to connect with the others in the course.
Right.
In fact, on some level, the online students have a certain advantage that the on-campus students don't have, and that is that you're building a network immediately of people from a lot of different places that are currently in different places and often already working in related fields or even in the field, okay, which typically doesn't happen with on-campus. But I have that right now in my copyright class where I'm looking at where I would say that, oh, possibly half of the class are already working in the music industry somewhere.
Yep.
And that's amazing when you start connecting with people in that space. So it's very important in this degree program uh, because this is such a new area
Yes.
um, that I think becomes even more important.
Appreciate that,
Um,
Ray.
so,
Yeah, and Dan, thank you for sending that sending off that answer to that person regarding, well, or their interest in playing piano in front of an audience. This is great because we
Yeah,
have
I
so
was
many
gonna.
performance.
I was.
Go
I
ahead,
wanted to
please.
just. I wanted to just acknowledge them. A for being here. But when I hear of vast interest, I feel like that's why we made this. It wasn't.
Right,
It was for people who didn't want to just learn because the degree is called Popular Music Pedagogy. But to piggyback and continue to reinforce that everyday musician thing, it truly is
yeah,
for the educator or mentor or musician looking to expand their palette and
that's
have
right.
more colors to choose from, but do deep dives into certain areas that they may have never been exposed to. So I know that's what we're seeing now, and that's why we did this.
I appreciate that because I was going to touch upon that. And Ray, thank you for answering the other question. It feels like I'm just have like my team here that's doing their thing.
yeah,
Um,
and I'm answering one right now.
Great.
yes, I appreciate that, Ray. And so Dan, just
Andrea,
quick,
could I was just going to say if I could, I'm just thinking of something out loud again.
please.
And again, it's not to give, you know, if you want to take the course, you got to do the degree. But selfishly, just thinking about this course since it was fresh and it was, it went off. I think I want to reiterate the perspective element in terms of the way the material is presented, what is being said about it, the type of assignment, if you will, or project or discussions that we have. It's not like a driver's test, where okay, what do you do here when you have this turn signal? And if you're riding a motorcycle, do you turn into this part of the lane? It's not that. It's not that. The questions are to for sure to see that the paying attention is happening, but it's more about getting you to say, well, what are some examples of this, say, that you've encountered with a student that you've had or a group of students or in a teaching situation when you were a student, what was the real. We really try and get at things to make the student think about all the experiences they've had as well as the information and the approaches they're learning. And
That's right.
I know that it's a great resource, for them.
And Dan, if you could speak just a little bit before you head out to the
Sure.
technology piece. I mean, you are, I mean, from top to bottom, you did the production of your course, you were in it and then some, buying cameras and recording yourself. And again, that's just like that, but that's a skill set that's
Yeah,
very
I got all
important and
these
be able to
lights around.
add.
I don't know what to do. No, just kidding.
But listen, being able to being able, like, we know how important technology here is, just at the Frost School overall and University of Miami as an
Mm,
institution and a school in it. But the technology in terms of like, and how we incorporate it in our curriculum, how important it is for students to just remain curious and open to it, because we're exposing them to it, whether it be software strictly for music, or actually using devices and tools and getting them in front of just exposing them, so that
mm,
because when they get out into whatever they're doing, or if someone approaches them with a project, what we don't want in any capacity is for them to be like, oh, I can't say yes to this because I have never even seen it before,
mm.
right? So can you speak just to the technology and how we're just ensuring we're engulfing it in here and we're making it a part of our curriculum. It's in your course, Ray. I know it's in your course, and we're only bring, and we're only bridging that gap more and more to ensure our
Mm.
students are leaving and going into whatever they want to go into without feeling like I've never seen this before, I wasn't prepared.
Well, I think that the yes, technology changes on a daily basis. I mean, we get,
Right.
how many Zoom updates do we get, or software
Right.
updates do we get? And,
Right.
from that macro level, and in just running the program, I think about, in fact, I can remember one of the discussions actually being centered around, can you tell me how you filmed that? And I was more than happy to. I thought that was great because one of the students was really interested in building content, and they were
And
like, well,
media,
how did you
right?
do that? And I took them through. Ray and I and my colleagues, I feel like certainly all of us in MAID are ones to figure stuff out if we don't know how to do it, and
Yeah.
just sit with it until we get it. I can remember during COVID, uh, when everything flipped to video, I was like, well, I'm pretty good with audio, but I don't have much experience with video. So I remember just watching films as we
Yeah.
had some time to do. And I was really studying camera angles. I was studying lighting, and I was almost looking to see if I could see anything that would give away sort of how a shot was, how a close up was, how did you get a portrait mode? How did you fade out? What did you do to the aperture? And I just started messing around. I remember with my kids actually in the summer of 2020, and just filming them do things outside, and
Wow.
then layering in effects and all of that stuff. The point of that, quick discussion here is just to say that, um, you know,
Sorry.
that I thought about this again, making sure that the students felt like they were with me. And
That's right.
in watching the courses and seeing the content that everybody has created, again, I think that's the most important factor, that these are not PowerPoints just being read. This
Yeah.
is full on engagement instruction.
Correct.
And this is, getting you to be part of a classroom. This is our classroom. So we should not have any limitations to share with you what we share with our students. And I think we've achieved that at a very
Yeah.
high level.
And
So,
ensuring, and students wanting to apply it if they want to in their own right, just seeing how you approached it and
Mm-hmm.
talking it through in the courses, it's just a component that we are definitely taking very seriously here.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for
Mm-hmm.
that, Dan. Any last remarks, because I want to be mindful of your
yeah.
time?
Oh,
And
thank you
Dan,
very
Ray,
much.
we
Yeah,
could.
Yeah.
I'll
Um,
send off to Ray, but I look forward to any future questions with anybody, and it's a wonderful program, and it's just getting better. We're just, we're only scratching the surface, but we've got something really
Right.
special, and I think people who do this are going to really
yeah.
benefit.
Appreciate you, Dan. Thank you for being here.
All
Ray, I'm
right,
going to
I'm going to
end it,
sign off.
please.
Yeah.
Ray, I'm going to end it with you, but we did get a question,
Well,
a
I know,
copyright.
and I'm
So,
looking at
so
that
please, if you
question,
can just
and
answer it live and
absolutely.
then go ahead.
Yeah, Krista, great question, and this is great to end with here. So yes, AI is already affecting our industry and affecting not just the industry, but how we teach music and
That's right.
everything else. So, and I'm knee deep into it, big
Yeah.
time. Actually, more than knee deep. I'm actually, yeah, I'm up to my eyeballs in it. What can I say?
Yeah.
Um, so a little shameless plug here. I'm a member of the College Music Society.
Mhm.
Uh, Thursday, next week, Thursday, a week from today, October 3rd, at sort of around this time, 6:15 Eastern, 3:15 Pacific. I'm doing an online session. You could go to the College Music Society website, just look them up, and you can register for the session, Music and AI, a year in perspective. I'm actually doing a whole series of these. It's called the College Music Society Innovation Forums, and I'm doing 6 different uh, meetings through between next week and all the way into May. Okay, and talking about what is happening with AI, but it's enormous. We at the Frost School have already incorporated into many of our courses AI tools, and this will absolutely be happening in our online program. So great. It'll be great to see you there. And thank you, everyone. This is an exciting area. You know, anyone that joins us now, we're pioneers in this. You will be among the first, and you will have, in this degree, an asset that very, very few people can match in terms of the knowledge that you get and the colleagues that you get to work with. They're a pretty special group of people.
That's right. And literally one of the first to have the actual degree.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it does not exist. So I appreciate you, Ray, and we thank Dan for being with us. And Rihanna, we are going to cue it over to you to take us out. Thank you.
Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you both, and of course to Dan for his perspectives. Some residual support that is available to you, including in addition to your actual faculty and me and Andrea, is going to be the Topical Career Center. We also have an online library that Ray talked about some of the law components that he teaches that can be a resource for those courses. And then we also have accommodation services and opportunities for you as an online student to connect with graduate students both online and on campus, and so much more. So, to get you started, just some application materials that you want to start gathering. You'll need your transcript or transcripts from your undergrad and graduate, whatever programs that you have been in college, your resume, your personal statement explaining why this program and why now, how is it going to complement the direction that you are heading in. Two letters of recommendation from those who are familiar with your work. And then if you are going to apply for federal aid, your FAFSA. And last but not least, your online application and your portfolio. So we get to know a little bit more about who you are. And then I want you to write this date down on your calendar. It is going to be Monday, November 3rd is our early admissions deadline, and you want to apply by that date. That way you are eligible for the 50% tuition waiver. We want this program to be academically and financially accessible to you guys. So please take advantage of that. We're doing so even so much that we will waive that $300 deposit fee for you if you are able to apply by November 3rd. So do mark that on your calendars. Go ahead, get in touch with one of our enrollment advisors. Again, the number is going to be 305-284-0050. And if you're super eager to apply, go ahead and scan that QR code. It'll take you right to the application so you can get started. You guys have been a wonderful audience. We've loved your questions and are excited to see you in the program. Have a good night, everyone. Bye bye.